Hello everybody, I hope you're all well. It's Monday, it's the 6th of December 2010 and it's late on in the afternoon and the sun's about to go down here. It's been snowing on and off here in Ireland for the last while. I think there's more of it up in the air by the look of things, so I think we're due for more of the same this coming week. I want to talk about something that's been ruminating in my mind over the weekend, and it relates immediately to today and an ongoing situation that's ongoing on the internet. And kind of in order to expand on it or to draw it out a little bit, I've got to tell you a story, one of my analogies. You've got to go back to 1930-31 in Germany and the foundations of the Nazi Party. And a little fella called Adolf Hitler and another fella called Ernst Röhm. And they're running around trying to promote this party. Röhm's the bully and the thug. At that stage he's the real fascist, as it were. Hitler's only in the halfpenny place. He's an ideological fascist, but he's not a physical fascist at that stage. Anyway, what happens is part of this sort of almost unholy triumvirate that I have is made up of another guy, and he's more sophisticated than all of them put together, and his name's JOSEF Goebbels. And what's sophisticated about him is he realises how you've got to bring together politics and economics and a social order, and how you do that by winning the minds and hearts of the people. That's how all real political and economic movements actually physically operate in the world. You've got to win the minds and hearts of the people. So if you don't do that, it won't last. None of it will last. And Goebbels saw that at a very early stage, and what he did was, as Hitler claimed the ladder up to become Chancellor and various things, and the whole rise of the Nazi Party, Goebbels was playing a key instrumental role in that as the propaganda guy. He did it through a whole series of things, obviously through the newspapers initially, which is the cheapest format to do it in. Then he got into radio. Then he put on the big rallies. They cost a lot of money to put on, but they put on the big rallies. And then the whole use of emblems and banners and all the rest of it. And then the final thing was the filmmaking with Leni Riefenstahl and the radio broadcasts, as I say, which became just an ongoing thing. So every day you were bombarded. It was a modern version of television. You were bombarded orally by all this propaganda coming at you. And the whole state became a Nazi statement. Became a statement of the Nazi Party. So the only reason I raise it is because when Hitler died, he didn't die with Himmler with him, or he didn't die with Göring, or he didn't die with any of those generals, and there was only one man with him. And Hitler had Eva Braun with him in one room, the newlywed wife, and in the next room was Joseph and Magda Goebbels and their children, and they all committed suicide together because the Russians were running around upstairs looking for them. Anyway, the only reason I'm raising all this is to say, because to me it exemplifies and demonstrates what is going on in the world today. And what's going on in the world today is a big power play for people's minds. And up until the arrival of the internet, it was done basically through three or four methods. And the 3 or 4 methods were state media, i.e. the television, primarily the television, then newspapers, and then radio. So they're the three methods that were used. And then of course you also had the church and the social institutions, but mostly the church and the state itself. But the state would only use, obviously, the media to do it, okay? So the general thrust of them is, from a child is born, is to capture the child and mould the child to become an instrument to collect taxes. Alright? And as we've discussed many times before, it's a triangle, and the elite are at the top of the triangle, and the people who create the wealth are all in the middle and bottom sections of the triangle, and the wealth goes up to the top of the triangle. Okay? So then what happened was an extraordinary thing happened. And this extraordinary thing was called the internet. And it was completely different in many ways than the television or the radio or anything else, because when you went on to it, you didn't just go on to it and the state controlled it. It didn't work like that. You could go anywhere, you could move around it, do whatever you like. So it wasn't just it is sitting in the corner of your room in a laptop or a desktop or whatever. It is there. But when you go on to it, you have a completely free choice up until now, and what came out of it was completely free up until now. And what happened was, all of a sudden, the elites of the world, in the Western world, under Western capitalism, suddenly realised, holy shit, there is a thing out there that's in its total infancy, and it's more powerful than TV, radio, newspapers, everything combined. Because it can combine all those things all in one. And it's sitting in the corner of people's rooms, and we don't control it. And what you have is, you've got guys, gurus, these political stroke economic gurus running around the world telling people like it what it is. And people unwittingly, or by through recommendation or through directly, are going on and listening to these guys. And women. And what they're saying is, do you know what? I don't agree with 100% of what that guy says. But do you know what? He sounds more plausible than the bloke that's on the TV reading out the news to me tonight. Because I know how much that guy earns, and I know who he represents. The bloke on the TV earns about 3 or 4 grand for doing what he does, and I know who he represents. He represents the state, and he's reading out a document issued by the state. This guy that's on the TV, on the internet, or woman that's on the internet, they're singing off literally no hymn sheet. You can sense this about them. It's all badly organised and all. It's like me. This camera cost me $150. That's my input. That's my capital input into this. I use a vehicle called YouTube. Now what's happening is, a big war is going on for people's minds. We all know that. And what's going to happen is, this element of it, the internet, is going to be brought to heel very, very quickly. Because this cannot continue. You cannot have people like me, and like... I'm not a guru, I've never claimed to be a guru, but giving out information, hopefully it will, hopefully I will be able to continue. But I feel it in my water, I sense it completely. This is all going to be restricted. And if you mention certain subjects, or you go in or delve in certain subjects, won't be allowed. And YouTube won't have sections given over to politics and economics and all that. This is what's going to happen. No. It's going to be reductio ad absurdum. It's all going to be down to RMS values. And the only way you get around it is have your own website, and that'll create all sorts of problems as well. Because the people that host your website will only be allowed to host it when it fits into certain parameters and all that. So, at the moment, this is what I am. You're there. I can talk to you reasonably freely. But please believe me, I find it no accident whatsoever that the major government in the world that wants to restrict the freedom of the internet is the American government. It's not by accident. Every day I read it in the American newspapers online about the various right-wingers in America who want to curtail, and left-wingers too, I'm sure some of them, want to curtail internet freedom. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we have an extraordinary man appears off a platform called WikiLeaks, and all of a sudden the whole world seems to be divided about whether or not he's a good guy or a bad guy. Listen, it doesn't matter whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. The fallout from him doing what he is doing is going to fit right into the palm of the United States government's hand. They want to restrict the internet, And he, either wittingly or unwittingly, is giving them the excuse to do exactly that. I just find it extraordinary. Totally and utterly extraordinary. There's been no WikiLeaks about India. There's been no WikiLeaks about China. There's been no WikiLeaks about the UK. It's all about one thing. It's all about one country. The source is all about one. You must remember what's happening here. You've got a man who's releasing this information on the internet through an organisation that he claims he owns or he controls. But who's giving him the information? Where is the information coming from? That's the big question. That's the $50 million question. Or the $6 million question. Or whatever it is. That's the real question. Where's the information coming from? And is it real information? I don't think so. I tell you one thing, I haven't seen anything on it that has made me all of a sudden light up and say, holy shit, I didn't know that. It's all headed in one direction. It's all headed so that the Americans down the line can say, listen, we had to do this because of national security. So that's what we have to look forward to. So I don't know whether or not we have to thank this man at the WikiLeaks or whether we don't. But I know what the inevitable consequence of what he's doing is about. And I wasn't born yesterday. That's all I want to say about it. I wasn't born yesterday. People may look at me and think I'm a fool, but I can assure you I'm not. And I don't like people, especially the Americans from the so-called intelligence agencies that make up a huge amount and take billions upon billions of dollars each year within America to fund, treat me like a fool. They don't know me from Adam, but I don't like it. I just don't like it. I've seen it all before. I've been around every corner that there is in the world, and I know all the moves, I know all the angles, and I know where this is heading. And you can bet your bottom dollar within 1 year from today, or even less, there'd be serious restrictions on this internet. And a lot of it will be down to this particular guy. Either wittingly or unwittingly. Anyway, that's all I want to say. We talk more. We have a big day tomorrow on Iron with the budget.